They made a mistake hiring me. I don't belong here. Everyone's going to find out I'm a fraud. If you've had these thoughts, you're experiencing imposter syndrome. And here's what almost nobody tells you. It's not a disorder, it's not a personality flaw. It's a completely logical response to being early in your development at a certain level. Today, we're breaking down imposter syndrome from a psychological perspective, what it actually is, why it happens specifically to capable people, and how to navigate it without letting it sabotage your growth. Imposter syndrome is the persistent belief that your success is undeserved, that you got lucky, that you fooled people, that eventually someone will realize you're not actually qualified. It was first identified by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes in 1978, studying high-achieving women who couldn't internalize their accomplishments. But here's what's interesting. Imposter syndrome doesn't show up in people who aren't achieving. It shows up specifically in people who are outperforming their previous level. Think about it. When did you last feel like an imposter? Was it when you were doing something you'd done 100 times? No, you felt confident. It was when you got promoted, when you joined a new team, when you took on a bigger project, when you were in a room with people more experienced than you. Imposter syndrome appears at the edges of your capability, where you're being stretched, where you haven't mastered things yet. Here's why this happens. There's a lag between external achievement and internal confidence. You get the promotion before you feel ready for it. You get selected for the opportunity before you feel qualified. Your external success moves faster than your internal self-image. This creates cognitive dissonance. Your external reality says, you belong here. Your internal experience says, I don't feel like I belong here. And your brain tries to resolve that dissonance. It says, if I don't feel qualified, but I got the position anyway, that means I fooled them. I'm an imposter. But that logic is backwards. You didn't fool anyone. You were selected based on demonstrated capability. The reason you don't feel ready is because you're early. You haven't been at this level long enough to feel comfortable yet. The feeling of being an imposter is not evidence you are one. It's evidence you're new. Research shows imposter syndrome is most common in high-performing individuals, not low performers, high performers. Why? Because high performers are constantly pushing into new territory. They're always the newest person at their level. They're always taking on challenges they haven't mastered yet. They're always in rooms where they're less experienced than others. That creates a constant gap between their actual capability and their comfort level. Low performers don't experience imposter syndrome as intensely because they're not imposters. They're exactly where their effort and capability put them. There's no gap between self-image and reality. But high performers, they're always ahead of their own self-image. So they always feel like they're faking it. That feeling is not a problem. It's a side effect of growth. Imposter syndrome is amplified by comparison. And comparison at work is inevitable. You're in meetings with people who have been in their roles for 5 years. You've been in yours for 5 months. They speak confidently. They know the context. They understand the history. You don't, so you assume they're smarter, more qualified, actually deserving of being there. But you're comparing your internal experience to their external performance. You feel your uncertainty. You don't feel theirs. You see their polish. You don't see their doubt. 5 years ago, they felt exactly like you feel now. Uncertain, behind, afraid of being exposed. But you can't see that, so you think you're the only one. There's an interesting psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. When people are incompetent at something, they tend to overestimate their ability. They don't know what they don't know, so they feel confident. But as people become more competent, they become more aware of the complexity. They realize how much they still don't know, so their confidence drops. This creates a paradox. The more competent you become, the less confident you feel. For a while, imposter syndrome is often the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse. You're competent enough to see all the things you still need to learn, and that awareness makes you feel like a fraud. But awareness of your gaps is not incompetence, it's metacompetence. It's knowing what you don't know. And that's actually a sign of expertise, not lack of it. When you're experiencing imposter syndrome, your brain selectively focuses on evidence that confirms the feeling. You made a mistake. See, I'm a fraud. You didn't know the answer. See, I don't belong here. Someone corrected you. See, they're realizing I'm not qualified. But you ignore contradicting evidence. You completed a difficult project. That was luck. You received positive feedback. They're just being nice. You were promoted. They made a mistake. This is called confirmation bias. Your brain finds what it's looking for. If you believe you're an imposter, you'll interpret everything through that lens. Successes become luck, failures become proof. But what if you flipped it? What if you looked for evidence of competence with the same intensity you look for evidence of fraud? You'd find it everywhere. Here's the critical distinction. Feeling like an imposter is not the same as being an imposter. An actual imposter is someone who lied about their qualifications, who fabricated their resume, who genuinely doesn't have the skills they claim to have. That's not you. You were hired based on your actual demonstrated capability. You were promoted because you earned it. You're in the room because you belong there. The fact that you feel unqualified doesn't mean you are unqualified. It means you're early, you're learning, you're growing into the role, and that process takes time. Nobody talks about this, but imposter syndrome is temporary if you stay. In your first 3 months at a new level, imposter syndrome is at its peak. Everything is unfamiliar. You're constantly making mistakes. You don't understand the context. But around the 6-month mark, something shifts. You start recognizing patterns. You start contributing more effectively. You start feeling like you know what you're doing. And by the 1-year mark, you rarely feel like an imposter in that specific role. Because you've accumulated enough proof, enough repetition, enough small wins. The feeling fades not because you became a different person, but because time gave you evidence. But here's the catch. As soon as you master one level, you move to the next, and imposter syndrome returns. Because once again, you're early. Once again, you're stretched. Once again, you're learning. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're growing. So how do you function while experiencing imposter syndrome? First, name it. When you feel like a fraud, say to yourself, this is imposter syndrome. It's a normal response to being new. It doesn't mean I'm actually unqualified. Second, collect evidence. Keep a document of your wins, positive feedback, completed projects, problems you solved. When your brain says you're a fraud, show it proof. Third, talk to people ahead of you. Ask them, did you feel like an imposter when you started at this level? Almost everyone will say yes. That normalizes the feeling. Fourth, separate feeling from fact. I feel unqualified is not the same as I am unqualified. Your feelings are not evidence of reality. They're evidence of newness. Fifth, act anyway. Imposter syndrome wants you to hide, to stay quiet, to play small. Do the opposite. Speak up. Contribute. Take the opportunity. Action builds confidence. Hiding reinforces fear. Stop seeing imposter syndrome as a problem. Start seeing it as data. When imposter syndrome shows up, it's telling you you're at the edge of your capability. You're being challenged. You're growing. If you never felt like an imposter, you'd never be stretching. You'd be staying where it's comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. Imposter syndrome is not evidence you don't belong. It's evidence you're brave enough to operate at the next level before you feel ready. And that's exactly how people become exceptional. They take the leap before they feel prepared. They grow into the role. They build confidence through doing, not through waiting. You're not an imposter. You're just early. Early in your understanding, early in your mastery, early in your comfort at this level. And being early is not a flaw. It's a phase. A phase everyone goes through. A phase that ends with time and repetition. So the next time you feel like a fraud, remind yourself. This is what the beginning of competence feels like. Everyone who's now an expert felt this way once. You're not behind. You're right on track. Stay in the room. Keep contributing. Trust that the proof will accumulate, because it will. If you felt this, comment early, not imposter, and subscribe for more psychology that helps you navigate growth with less anxiety and more clarity.